obviously foods that are stripped of nutrients. They're devoid of mineral content. There's pesticides and other types of farming techniques that are used today that are very much depleting not only the nutrient sources in the plants and foods we're eating, but also the soil. In fact, that's one of the main problems is we're now growing our crops on nutrient-depleted soils, and so the mineral content, nutrient content in the vegetables we're eating today are not that great. That's where the whole idea of empty harvest comes from. It looks like a nice plate of veggies, but the reality is there's not a lot of nutrient value left in it. Not just 50, 60 years ago, you were getting 50, 60, 100% more nutrients, say iron, for example, in spinach. So it's degraded quite a bit, and it's all linked to this. I mean, why do people have digestive issues? It's because of the foods. They have low nutrient value, yes.
What about hydroponics?
Hydroponics as far as a growing technique?
For the nutrients in the food.
They can be a lot better. If the person doing it has the wisdom and the knowledge and knows what those particular plants and stuff that they're growing needs nutrient-wise, and they can add that themselves, and that's actually not a bad idea. It's probably one of the better ways you could actually control what's going into your foods or not. Hydrochloric acid. There's other things that can go on with your stomach, but I mean, for generally just trying to understand digestion, the main thing is keeping our HCl right. When it comes to the small intestines and large intestines, things get a lot more complex. One thing is, most of your immune system lives there, so if your intestines get out of whack, your immune system gets out of whack, and then you have an inability to fight off infection and disease, and then you stay in an inflamed state for longer, which leads to more cellular breakdown, and so on and so forth. So it's a cycle we have to interrupt. And I know there's a lot of important systems in the body, you know, the brain, the heart, for example, would be easy ones to identify, but if you're not getting nutrients, if you're not breaking down the foods you're eating, if you're not absorbing what you're putting into your body, what's your brain and heart going to do? They're going to fail. So I kind of think your intestines and your digestion is really probably one of the most important things we need to focus on. And things have just gotten really out of whack these days. So the bowel flora and pH must be balanced for healthy immune function, nutrient breakdown, and absorption. There's all sorts of little bacteria and critters and other things, types of yeasts that are alive right now inside your intestinal tract, and they play a part in fermenting and breaking down foods. Or I should say nutrients in the chyme, you know, break apart amino acid chains and things like that, for example. It gets out of whack when you're not eating the right foods. It gets out of whack when you don't eat the right vegetables. It gets out of whack when you have low HCl. It gets out of whack when you get overly toxic. There's so many things that'll get your intestines out of whack. And the interesting thing is, guys, there's no nerve endings in your intestinal tract. So there could be something hugely wrong and you won't even feel a thing. You know, you could be, I mean, I've talked to people who have actually had internal hemorrhaging and not known it. They feel fine, they feel a little bloating, whatever, and they have to go through this whole process before they end up at the hospital realizing that they need emergency endoscopy, you know. It's a strange story. And conversely, if you do feel your intestines, that's also something for alarm, because that means what you're feeling is them pushing against another organ or something else in your body, because again, there are no nerve endings there. So it's things to be aware of. And you've got to keep your pH balanced. The small and large intestine are obviously more alkaline than the stomach. But if you get overly alkaline, certain yeast, Candida for example, and other microorganisms will run rampant. They're not the ones you want. Same thing, if you get overly acidic, it produces a whole other set of problems. Overprescribing antibiotics has destroyed most people's GI balance. That's simply because antibiotics indiscriminately destroy all bacteria. So it'll take everything out in your stomach. So anytime you've ever been sick and you've done a round of, I don't know, what's the one with the Z? A really powerful one, that antibiotic. Yeah. So you do that one, or the Z-Packs, because they're so prescribed now. Once you do that, and I think the Z-Pack's only 2-3 days, you've pretty much annihilated 85% or so, with the Z-Pack anyway, because it's extremely strong, of the positive flora in your gut. And maybe we've had a little yogurt, maybe not, who knows. Most of the stuff is pasteurized, so even then, a lot of the enzymes and bacteria are broken down, but they put it in there, so that's a good thing. You'll see the bacillus and the bifidobacterium on our dairy products now, but most of us have this problem, simply because of the antibiotic overprescription, and we just haven't taken the time to rebuild it. So most of us do have somewhat of a digestive issue. Like I said, 75% of your immune system lives in your gut. So when out of balance, I mean, there's probably 800 different illnesses. There's a huge list of different things that can happen to your system when your intestinal tract is out of balance. I just put up a couple of them. You know, leaky gut, any kind of autoimmune problems, candida, nutrient malabsorption, gas, bloating, Crohn's, IBS, ileitis, things like this. You guys have heard of all this kind of stuff. Maybe you've
What's a leaky
experienced it.
gut?
What's ileitis?
No, a leaky gut.
A leaky gut is quite literally how it sounds. It's a gut with perforations throughout it, so the nutrients that you're eating and the waste products you're producing don't stay in your intestinal tract. It seeps out into your bloodstream. And the problem with that is the fecal matter that seeps into your bloodstream. And so it's dumping toxins straight into your system. So leaky gut is bad news. Diabetes. This was at 2,200 a day. I guess it was 2003. I think that number's gone up now. Again, sometimes I wait a little while to, I think the numbers hit a certain point. You kind of, 2,200 versus 3,500. I mean, it's just like, that's a day, by the way. 2,000 people a day. You believe that? It's pretty extreme. So the number of Americans between the 1980 and 2000 basically tripled Americans with diabetes. And this number is going up. There's a lot of people out there who are undiagnosed. There's a lot of people with dysglycemia, which is basically pre-diabetic, that are out there and don't even realize it. So it's pretty stunning stuff. And it really, again, it comes down to this thing. What's going into our body? What are we eating? I put this slide up here mainly for that last point. 160 pounds of sugar annually. So I think everybody here probably knows that sugar and diabetes go hand in hand. Specifically blood sugar. So we've got to figure out a way to decrease, well, one, the amount of additives and other stuff we're drinking, but also the amount of sugar that we're getting into our diet. And the problem is they sneak it in on us. They put it in everything. It's amazing. It's amazing. Our ancestors didn't eat sugar. We rarely ate berries. Let me think about it. In the old days, before we figured out we could hunt animals, we ate twigs. And back when the human race, first got around, there wasn't a lot of fruit. There was a lot of plants, a lot of greens, a lot of things like that. So sugar in and of itself is not something your body is set up physiologically to deal with a lot of, okay? Deal with a little bit of it, that's fine. But not the amounts that we're getting today, especially not 160 pounds a year on average. That's crazy. So what's happened? Well, as far as diabetes is concerned, moving to low-fat foods. They're high in sugar. They're high in salts. They stimulate the appetite, which is a funny thing, because fat and protein are basically the things that make you feel satisfied.